Welcome to Better Together podcast from the ministry of Cowee Baptist Church, a podcast about the local church, the kingdom, and the gospel.
All right, well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much again for joining us for another episode of the Better Together podcast. My name is Tyler Pendergast. I'll be the host of this podcast. Thank you guys again for just engaging and listening or watching along on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. We hope this can be a beneficial tool for you guys. So for today, I have an awesome guest with me. I've got to know him a little better over the past couple years. His official title is the Next Generation Assistant and Milestone Coordinator. A friend of mine, Tom Jones. Tom, how are you this morning?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, cool, man. So how's your week been?
It's been good. A little quiet. Everybody in Honduras, so it was just the kind of the small crew, but it was good.
Right? Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, we had a group go to Honduras this past week, so it's cool that, they were willing to go. We had a church willing to send them, so... well, Tom, for those of us that don't know you, man, let's get started. Just tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure. So, born and raised in Waynesville, and then somewhere along the way, probably 5-6 years old, heard the salvation message and came to know the Lord there. Kind of cool, weird connection, but Lloyd Fish actually baptized me, and then come to find out that he used to pastor here. So that was cool. Yeah. Fast forward a little more, my relationship with the Lord probably really started in 10th grade, and that's when it just kind of started happening. I had this desire to read the Bible, and then kind of from there, things took off, and I realized how exciting the Lord was, and so that kind of took me in my journey with Him, and then wound up going to a Christian college, North Greenville University. Had a great time there, and couple years after that, I'm just kind of hitting the highlights here. I went on a year-long mission trip through Adventures in Missions called the World Race, and we did 11 months in 11 countries, a month in each country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so that was an awesome experience. Really kind of helped cement some things in my faith and identity. And then came back shortly after, married a Franklin girl. She drugged me across the mountain, and here I am.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you on the good side of the mountain.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding. But so 11 countries in 11 months. So just real quick, what were all the countries that you went to?
Oh, goodness. So started off in Haiti, did a month there, and then went over to South America and did Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador. And so we would go to a continent, fly to a continent, and then just bus in between countries. Mm-hmm. And so then somewhere around New Year's, we flew to Africa and did mostly Southern Africa, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. And then the last part of our trip was Asia, where we did Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Cambodia.
Oh, wow.
Not all in that order, but basically that's how it went.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's especially 11 countries in 11 months, man. That's a big thing.
Yeah. It was crazy, but it was good.
And what's your degree in?
So my degree, I'm actually supposed to be a high school English teacher.
Okay.
I realized that I love English and I love creative writing and things like that. Mm-hmm. Not so much the teaching it to high schoolers.
Right.
So that takes a very special person. I did wind up teaching at a Christian school, elementary school, for a couple of years. I taught 3rd and 4th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, that was good, but yeah, English is what I was supposed to do, and so like many English majors, that's not what I'm doing. So.
Right. Well, no, that's cool. Yeah, it's cool to see how we have a design and a plan for our life, and God's like, no, I'm going to use you this way.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
But awesome. So Next Generation's Assistant Milestone Coordinator, that's a mouthful of a title.
Yeah.
I think just from the title alone, we might not be able to tell exactly what your role is here. So why don't you just walk us through, what does a work week look like for you?
Sure. So Mondays is when we kind of all try to do our deep work. So kind of uninterrupted, try to not interrupt each other, although I'm pretty good at interrupting others. But yeah, so for me, that mainly means working on my filming for the week. So I do our kids videos. That's what the kids watch on Sundays for the teaching portion. And so this is kind of my first go at both filming and editing. And so I'm still learning the ropes. So I have to say it takes me a little longer than I'd like. And so if I could get all my filming and editing out of the way just on Mondays, that would be a good week. Doesn't always work that way. And then the rest of the rest of the days are kind of prepping for whatever's next, and kind of each of the things that I do, whether it's trail life, planning the next troop meeting, Wednesday nights teaching the kids, or anything sort of milestones related, getting geared up for that.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. And then so Sundays, what does that look like?
Yeah. So Sundays, I help prep everything, and of course we have the 8:45 service, and so any kids that come in there, usually I wind up watching those. It's a smaller crowd, and then at 10 o'clock there's a connect group that I'm a part of, kind of a pilot sort of small life group, and then at 11 o'clock kind of all hands on deck in kid ministry, and so kind of helping run check-in. Sometimes I teach class. So yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
So you mentioned these kids videos that you do, and my kids love them. They've seen them in Kingdom Kids.
Right.
We've watched them at home. Thrown them on TV on YouTube a couple times. So where did the idea for that come about?
Yeah. So I am thankful for your son. He's like my one fan. No. So I can't take a lot of credit. I feel like I've been kind of just like gifted with this kind of awesome thing that was kind of already going. And so Kelly was doing the videos before, and so she had a lot of the layout for me. And then I came in and just kind of was able to kind of do a little more. And so right before I came on staff here, I was a part of a business called Soccer Shots, which is kind of an intro to soccer program for kids. And so it's super silly, it's super goofy, and so that just kind of primed me to do the same thing in my videos.
Okay.
And so yeah, it's been fun. I get to be creative, and then also get to weave the gospel in there. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. And like I said, my son loves them. It's like it's what you're seeing in a lot of popular kid shows like Blippi and things like that. I feel like it's got that vibe, but it's more beneficial because it's got truth in it too. So like whenever you script those out, do you have like a specific passage or idea that you're wanting to get across? Or
yeah. So yes, I do. So we use the Gospel Project.
Okay.
Which, if your child is here for 2 years with us, that will take them through the whole Bible, like Genesis to Revelation.
Okay, and that's just on Sundays. Like if they come for 2 years of Sundays, they walk through the whole Bible.
Right. Okay. Right. Which we think that's a really special, cool thing.
Absolutely.
And so like this past Sunday was, or I guess today is Matthew 22, and it's the parable of the wedding feast, and the master inviting all these people and them saying no, and then he invites whoever, and so so there is a passage every Sunday. And then other than that, I just try to make it as engaging as possible. We always try to play like a little fun game. And I try to, I don't know, just do whatever that's eye-catching so that during the video, they're staying engaged.
Right. Yeah, that's a huge thing with kids, it's just keeping them engaged.
Right.
Attention spans being short. And
right.
Yeah, so that's awesome, man. It's cool. Like I said, my kids love it. I know I've told you that, and they're like, Mr. Tom's on TV.
Right.
It's just, they love it.
Right.
So the milestones, too, for those of us that, aren't as involved in Sunday service or maybe listening and go to a different church, what do milestones look like?
Sure. So milestones is mainly focused on parents, although there are some milestones that are focused on young adults and then even older adults. But kind of the thought is you're driving along, you see a sign up ahead for the next thing up ahead, you pull off, you learn a little bit about that step, what that phase of discipleship means for your child, and then you're able to pull back on and engage that in a way that's just more meaningful. You have some more traction. It's more effective, and you're prepped for this next kind of stage of discipleship with your child.
Okay.
So there's a lot of them, but I'll just kind of name a few. So there's parent-child dedication, and then you've got the early years, kind of just before they go to school, and then you've got first day of school, and so getting prepped for all of what that means. Right. And because although we think we know, I think a lot of times parents don't really know what comes with the next stage. Right. And so like, for example, and it's kind of a random example, but once your kid starts playing sports and then maybe they're good and maybe they get asked to join a travel team, and most parents are like, yeah, like that's a great opportunity, but also have to weigh like all of what that means for a family and for Sundays and things, and obviously nothing against travel ball, but
right.
But it's just kind of good to know what might be up ahead.
Right.
And then of course we have adolescence, and kind of all of what goes into that, and trying to talk to them about purity before they even get to school at that point, because I think there's been research shown that the person who tells them first is going to have the most powerful effect, and so you want that to be you.
Right.
And then moves into kind of adolescence and being a teenager and trying to catch them before they turn feral. Just joking, but and then also moving on into like launch, graduating, right, and young adulthood. So kind of each of those times, just like taking a step back, and kind of prepping the parents, and how can you make these moments very meaningful for your child.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, those are all beneficial things. My kids are pretty young, and you have young children as well.
Right,
so like,
right.
Just thinking ahead about teenage years and things like that, and yeah, a class would be super beneficial. And so do you guys like offer classes every so often?
So we do, and we'd start up the Milestone Project, and we're kind of looking at restructuring it. So I don't want to say anything as a promise, but right. we're looking towards potentially doing more of like a seminar sort of look at things.
Okay.
Or almost like a little mini conference, so that parents can come and get them all at once. And then we might do that like a couple of times a year, maybe even having like a key speaker.
Okay.
And then also during those times, have breakout sessions where you get to meet parents that are on kind of similar life tracks, because you have kids that are the similar age.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think that would be a cool thing.
Yes.
I can think of like conferences that we've been to as a church or youth group, like the the big sessions are always cool, but then the breakout where you get in smaller groups and can have more intimate conversations and things like that are beneficial. So yeah, excited about that. Excited for the future, see where that would go.
For sure.
Another thing that you mentioned you were involved with is Trail Life.
Yes.
So for those of us at Cowee, we've been hearing about that for a while. And I think the plan is to launch it into the community as well.
Correct.
So just to start off, what is Trail Life?
Yeah. So Trail Life is a Christian outdoor kind of outdoor skills program for boys and their dads.
Okay.
And we give the invitation to dads and guardians. They don't have to, but it's really cool when dads can participate. And so basically the goal of Trail Life is to build boys into godly men of courage, character, and competence. So that's actually kind of what separates Trail Life from a lot of different programs. The first one is that it's Christ-centered, and they don't take that lightly. The second is that character is being taught, and then not only character, but then also skills, like, all things that come with an outdoor program, building a fire and rope work and, cooking at a campsite and all those different things that we and a lot of those different aspects we kind of see just kind of going by the wayside, but we want to kind of bring them back to the forefront. So those three things, the Christ-centered, the character, and the competence or skills, is kind of what makes Trail Life special.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a cool program, and I definitely feel like, I mean, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it too, but
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely feel like that's an important program for us to have today, especially the way society is and how we look
Mm-hmm.
at manhood, and then on top of that, biblical manhood.
Exactly.
So where do you, like, with the importance of trail life, like, why is this an important program for us to have today?
Right, right. So I think it aligns exactly with what we want to see as far as discipleship goes in our kids' lives, and so it's I think a lot of families might be like, man, like it sounds really good, but where do I fit that in my schedule? Like, how can I fit this in my schedule? And then, but when you think of it as more from like a discipleship point of view, it's kind of like, how can I not do this? Even if it's not so much about the skills,
Right.
but if it's about, the Christ centeredness and then the character. This is just older men. So the leadership is all coming from guys in our church. And we've put together a leadership team. And so it's these guys who have a heart for seeing these young boys trained up and to become godly men, bold, godly, humble men. And so that's where we feel like, the good stuff really happens is, the outdoors and the fun, like that's kind of the carrot.
Right.
But really once they get here and it's discipleship and it's training and, getting to have heart-to-heart conversations about God and the gospel, like that's where we really are excited to see all that happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how many events have you done with Trail Life already?
So we took this summer as kind of a launch period, kind of like a kind of growing up to the point of when we'll launch it to the community. And honestly, it's kind of felt like we're building it as we're flying it kind of thing.
Right.
But it's been good. So since June, we've had one what they call troop meeting every month. And we're actually about to have one next month, next week, next Sunday, August 13th.
Okay.
And then it'll open kind of full force to the community in September.
Okay.
So September 10th, I believe, will be our open house, and that's where we'll like full, pedal to the metal, release it to the community. And we just feel that kind of with those different aspects that I talked about, we feel like there's just a real hunger for it, and it'll draw a lot of people in the community, and it'll just be, really good ministry.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. We'll be praying for that for sure. And then what's the date again that it'll be launching? Because the podcast will come out a little closer to that date.
Great. Yeah. So September 10th, here at church, here at Cowee, at 3 p.m. is what we're planning for.
Okay.
And that's open to anybody who's interested. Anybody has a boy in their life that they love, that just wants to kind of come and find out more about the program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So Trail Life, is there? How can we specifically be praying for that?
I would say, leaders are kind of what makes the magic work. And so they're going to be having the most impact on the boys. And we have a really solid set of leaders. But if we get a lot of people interested, like right now here at church, I think we have like 30-ish boys that are partaking in the program. But if we get, I don't know, if we were going to get double than that, we'd need more leaders.
Right.
And so we're just looking for men who really have a heart of discipleship. If you like the outdoors, then great, that's a plus, but it's not required.
Right.
So just looking for those kind of leaders that can help engage with those boys.
Okay.
So
awesome. Well, where have you been at in the scriptures this week?
So we're in a D group together.
That's true. Yeah.
So we've been in 2 Corinthians, and this past week, 2 Corinthians chapter 8 and chapter 9 really got me. So it's Paul talking about kind of encouraging the Corinthians to give towards other churches. And I think what kind of got me in the heart was if Paul at that time was telling the Corinthians to like help this other church that probably wasn't worlds away, basically, how would he feel about, us American churches helping, other churches kind of worldwide? Because he's pretty strong towards them, challenging them to give generously.
Right.
He does say, not to give under compulsion, but, to be a cheerful giver. But that just kind of hit me. And then like we, in the Western world, we could give up something that we probably wouldn't miss. And if we were to give it to, a church or a ministry somewhere else, like it could really go a long way.
For sure.
So yeah, that's kind of been my thoughts in Scripture thus
Okay.
far. So.
That's awesome. And then I'm sure with you, like, going on the mission, what do they call it exactly?
The world race.
The world
not
race.
the amazing race.
Okay.
The world race.
The world race. So, going to all those other countries, seeing, what does church look like here versus in America, I'm sure big differences there.
Yeah. Actually, when I was kind of convicted and challenged, I got back in touch with one of the pastors that we served with in Malawi, and so
Okay.
that was just really cool to kind of reconnect and see what they're up to and the joy that they have, and yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. That's really cool, man. So, I guess just how can we be praying for you
Sure.
in your ministry and the things that you're doing here at Cowee? How can we be praying for you?
Yeah, I think the main thing is, that I would continue to just be finding the Lord in the secret place. I think that's so easy, just to kind of let the day get started and just kind of get to our to-do list and our tasks, but to do my best to get in the secret place with the Lord. And then other than that, just that he'd show me how to, use what we're doing here at church in Cowee to connect our kids' hearts to his heart. So, that would be my main prayer there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be praying for you for sure. I appreciate you. Appreciate all you do with the kids.
Absolutely.
Appreciate your heart and with Milestones and Trail Life.
Mm-hmm.
Really excited to see how God uses that to impact not only our church
too.
but our community as a whole. So
Yeah, for sure.
thanks for sitting down today. I appreciate you. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
So guys, we will see you guys next week, or next time that we meet. You can find this podcast on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube is the video version. So thank you guys. We'll see you next time. God bless.